Acted the most sweeping reform since FDR to protect consumers and prevent a crisis on Wall Street from punishing Main Street ever again. None of these actions stifled growth as critics predicted. Instead, the stock market has nearly tripled.
That was President Obama earlier today taking credit for the stock market. They call it a victory lap. He also took credit for lower unemployment rates, but well, he had no comment on the thing that drove it, labor force participation or lack thereof, which, as you can see from the chart, has plummeted pretty big time under his time in office. Here to discuss it with me, Emily Jasinski, Gina Loudon, and Kirsten Hagelin are back. Emily, let me start with you. President Obama is a smart man. He understands that as millions of people have left the job market, it made the unemployment rate go down. Even the government's data on the real number is 9.6%, and some people think it's higher than that. And that's not the only thing that has an asterisk next to it today from that press conference.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you showed the labor participation rate chart, because when you break it down, the numbers that the Congressional Budget Office offers, you can actually see that discouraged workers in this country, there's still over 500,000 discouraged workers in this country, which is a huge number. And, I work with young Americans. I represent the generation that voted President Obama into office, and look at where they are. Youth unemployment is over 16%. National debt per capita under the Obama years is approaching $60,000, and you have all kinds of student loan debt, and that's not going to bode well for the future. So this is obviously laughable, and it's sort of disappointing to hear him talking like this, but not at all unexpected.
Well, true, not unexpected, Gina, but again, jobs that were created that didn't pay as much as the jobs that were lost pre and during the throes of the Great Recession. So wages are actually lower. People have dropped out of the job market. The unemployed, 3 million permanently unemployed folks, and it's been a pretty rough patch. Now, he inherited an ugly patch, but he could have done a lot more, and I think his policies did hurt us.
Yeah, and all we had to give up, Charles, was doubling the debt more than all the other presidents combined in our history. This press conference, didn't you think it felt a little bit like a post-grief group therapy session? More like, I'm okay, you're okay, we're all okay. It really isn't. And here's the reality, Charles. Him taking any credit for the economic hopefulness that the American people in the markets have right now is really sort of like the lamestream media taking credit for Fox's gargantuan rating spikes. It has nothing to do with him. It's because he's leaving. So it's rather in spite of him than because of him. And I think the American people are onto that.
I see that with the market a lot. When a bad CEO leaves a company and the stock goes through the roof. But, Kirsten, this is the narrative, right? And this is how they'll put it forward. And, of course, we just had an election, so the American public didn't buy into it. But still, the media soaked it up today. And to Gina's point, this is going to be the narrative going from here on out.
Right. Well, this was kind of like revisionist history, actually, what you felt watching this. You're like, really? Where have I been the last 8 years? And also a way for him to feel like he's cementing his legacy, right? But the outcome of the election showed that voters in this country and the economy that they experience every day in their life is nothing of what Obama said today. It's exactly the opposite. That's why Donald Trump is president and Hillary Clinton is not president. Also very interesting, you mentioned the markets, is everyone expected that the markets were going to favor Hillary Clinton because they like, they like continuity. They don't like to be surprised, and look what happened to the markets. Yeah. So there's nothing usual here, and it's not all due to Obama.
Yeah, here's the other thing, Emily. Of course, the Federal Reserve took extraordinary measures. They printed $3.5 trillion. They set up extraordinary measures like quantitative easing. They bought bad debt from banks, toxic debt from banks. They had secret missions. I mean, in fact, Bernanke and Janet Yellen on more than one occasion hinted that if fiscal policy from the White House had matched all the efforts that they were putting forth and all the risk that they're actually foisting upon our shoulders, we would have had a more robust economy.
Yeah, and that's something I think that goes underreported in the mainstream media. I mean, that's a huge example, and I completely agree with Kirsten. It's almost disrespectful the way President Obama is bragging about these things. In the same conference today, he bragged about Obamacare, which is wildly unpopular. So it's just almost a disrespectful thing to the American public to go out here bragging, using this revisionist history at the end of this term. It's ridiculous. I don't think it's going to fly well either.
Gina, though, it does say something that, if you look at the NFIB, the small business index, if you look at the home building index, November 8th, everything changed for every single sector. And it speaks to to a sort of excitement about Donald Trump that I think is magnetic. I think it's magical. And with the GOP Congress, hopefully he'll get all of these things through.
Yeah, it's very exciting. I mean, people, when they look at somebody who is going to cut regulations on small business, when they look at someone that's going to completely restructure our taxes and take burdens off of those who might start businesses or companies that will add jobs, this is automatically going to give people a sense of optimism, Charles. And it's almost as if it happened in spite of what people wanted. People really wanted to sort of gasp and take a big, deep breath and say, oh, my gosh, this unexpected thing happened, as you pointed to. But instead, they're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel here. It's a light at the end of the economic tunnel, and America is optimistic, and the guy in the big red suit's coming. You're right.
All right, guys. Thank you all very much. Have a great weekend. Coming up,